Kaya yuxsatinik tekatuhan. Kaya inkachwanik. Idekakwalanik daat Yal'úk sha. Yal'úk Tsísk'w. So sheetkach aayí ti Yal'úk sha. Yal'úk yiduasago at Yal'úk. Atlein shkalnik qudzati o Daat Yéi Jiné qad kisani. Cool yiduasago at wiqad. Sha aya yata isikuge sha. Wan ganin sha keujituk. Adach aya atlein T'aawáḳ. Qa katratsewa qakwasaduasago at yawullala yiteqwa. Yal'úk sha yiduasago at Yal'úk sha. Yadu soran qatuwu. Dech achjiwu. Dech watuwu. Kaiqa khoa. Daat Yéi Jiné. Just Yal'úk nuj. Yatayach. Kakigi. Ya adusa has adusa outlayech. Has qaqwawuz. Achide de shi yata tin. Dech 1000 dana yijit watuwa ti. Ya just kaiqa hajiwu khoa. Yewa khan hasakawanik. Ide kakwadashi. Just the cutway. Ichtidei tunach. Ichtidei yik. Khatqa ha. Kasi at hechwa. Atude aya. Adehas yigursanechye. Like. Just Yal'úk. Yewa Yal'úk Tsísk'w. Yiduasago at. Kananik leilqa klinach. Oh, here, I think I'll try and walk through it again. Tliatge yiin kachwanik, yiin kakwalanik, Yal'úk Tsísk'w daat. Tliatge.
Thing about the owl.
Mm-hmm. Tliatge. Okay, wait there.
Days ago.
A while ago.
The other day. In kachwanik. In kakwalanik. Yal'úk. Let me check my spelling while you're all figuring out this little sentence. Which one? Oh, Yal'úk. I can't look at it on my computer because you'll see it. Is it to the Wi-Fi? What?
At break, I can show you how to dual screen them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where it makes your iPad
Like a
into
sidecar
second.
thing?
Yeah, sidecar.
Oh, I think I'm driving.
Sneak the verb for story.
Yes, and one other thing.
The other day I told you all that I will tell you something.
About the thing that I got. Yeah, I gotta check. I think this is right, but Oh, now I'm connected. Good luck. Oh, I spelled it correctly. Yata, aya, Yal'úk. That's how we Yal'úk Shah.
Blinking?
Shah.
Shah Mountain.
Blinking mountain.
So erupting.
One qanins. We Shah. Keuchatuk. Keuchatuk.
Explode.
Ye awe. Yal'úk Shah. You do a sago. Sheet kuk. Aayí Yal'úk Shah. You do a sago. T'aawáḳ inach dasaway.
In Sitka, there's a blinking mountain that is called.
Ye awe. T'aawáḳ inach dasaway.
What part?
We Yal'úk Shah. Sheet kuk.
Oh, Mount Edgecombe.
Ye awe. Ye awe. Yata Soran Khatu Yutu Sak. Yata. Oh. You do it. Like way out, meeting out, you do a sako. Yata. Oh, you say kuke? Yata. That's the way yata. Waita. Hata. Utah. Utah Jazz. Anybody know what any of these are?
Like
This one, that one, this one right over here, that one way over there. And it could also be ones. It could be plural. And it's just fine just to use it for people. It's not insulting. I was somewhere and someone said, wait, kanawus. Ask that one. It's not rude in Klingon. So yata, well, I guess I should have said wait. Soran, katu, you to sak. Oh, what is that?
we call it Saran Katuwa.
Yep. So you do a sak, it is called. You to a sak, we call it. You hus a sak, they all call it. And so you could change the subject in there. You could say, you sak, I call it that, right? Okay. Dech a, tu u. Dech a, tu u. Dech a, tu. We bought two of them. Just Daat Yéi Jiné. Oh, Khatu is a chickadee. It means a person's feelings or intentions or spirit or desires. And that's why a chickadee is called that, because when you hear it calling, somebody's thinking about you. qatuwu. Just like Haa Atx Jiné.
Just cheese, by the way.
Just one of them works.
Just one of them works. Chakuta. Just Yal'úk.
Not the song.
Yeah, what's that good? I plugged. We bought two. I was excited because I'm gonna see how they work. And this was probably in August. And I plugged it in, and then I hooked it up to the app, and it said, "Press this button to update it." And I did, and all it's done is just blink ever since. And I wrote the people, and they said, "Oh, we'll fix it from here, right through the internet. Be like magic." Cool. And it just sits there and blinks. And I just gave up. So I'll give it to our computer people. Yal'úk Tsísk'w. You do a sago at Yal'úk Tsísk'w. That's why it's called the blinking owl. There's the story of the blinking owl. You got it now. Okay, what do you want to do next? Little readings. Haa Atx. We should try Haa Atx. We also got some grammar stuff, and then your focus sentences. That's what I thought we'd do today. Let's look at Haa Atx. So this is another reading. I really want to thank Jim Samard, who was a archival librarian with the state of Alaska. He found a whole bunch of these old books. He's not the only one. I'm sure other folks had them. But there were these texts that were made in the late 70s, early 80s, and they're fabulous. So I just do a little bit of slight updating to the spelling. This one is called Haa Atx Daat Yéi Jiné. But actually I want to kind of break this down a little bit to show you folks how it works. So every now and then, if you want to know how some of these sentences work, because what the process is, we're going to take turns reading it and then translating. But instead of going like one or two sentences at a time, we'll have about 4 of them. There's going to be a lot of repeating patterns though, so once we start to get some of them, we'll get it. So some of the things that we're going to start looking at now is the gloss and the segment. And the idea behind this is to just say, look at all the parts that are here, watch what happens when we snap them back together. Right? And now some people don't like to do this. They think it's jarring. I do think it helps because then you see all the parts that are there, and then I'll show you the parts that you could change. Then we'll start changing them. And then once you see stuff like Yéi Jiné, then you'll be able to change. You can say Yéi Jiné, Yéi Jiné, Yéi Jiné, Haa Yéi Jiné, right? You'll be able to say all that stuff and change it to say who's doing the thing. Yéi Jiné, right? So this part, when we say ha, what does that translate to? Hour. And then when we're glossing, well, I guess there's 2 steps. So here's the first step. Let me put this on its own page. Okay, so Haa Atx Daat Yéi Jiné. So the first thing is called the segment. So we'll say ha plus at dash cha dash ye plus da plus ye plus this one. You have j 0 0 ne. Okay? And you will learn how to spot those invisibles. It's a little tricky, but we'll learn exactly what goes where and what we should be expecting to be there. Even if there's nothing there, we're going to mark it when we pull it apart because those are things that we will change. Okay? So so it's called the segment, is where you pull it apart. And then,
How does segment differ from the term glossing?
so then the gloss is where you say what all those individual parts are. And you include, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because we're going to run out of room. And then we include the super secret decoder key stuff, right? So what we're going to do is if we're going to add additional information, we'll put a period on there. no spaces, and here we're going to put parentheses, 1p period p. And it's not the most critical thing that you know how to do this. Some people like to do this, some people don't. It's kind of up to you where you land with this stuff. But this is how we can sort of look at exactly how the language works. If you're curious how these things are coming together, I do think this process can help. And then it'll also show you what kinds of things to change. And I think it'll also help you memorize a bunch of stuff that you might be looking at. So what do you think 1P stands for?
For first person.
First person?
Plural.
Plural, right? So I don't think you need to go 1S. I think you just go 1P. First person plural. I'm trying to like shorten everything. And then what's the other P?
Possessive.
Yes. So then by noting that, your brain can say, oh, these are possessive pronouns. I could say ach, I, du, ha, yi, hastu, ka, at, right? Okay. So then next, and sometimes with nouns, you can pull them all apart. This is a noun that comes from a verb, right? And what's really interesting is atcha can be a noun and atcha can be a verb. As a verb, it could also mean two different things. It's pretty wild. So atcha can mean three things. Atcha can mean food. What else do you think it can mean? Eat. To eat. To eat. A command form. Eat something. Atcha. So someone says, achit yanuah atcha. Cook. With more compassion. What's the third thing? Singular they are eating something. I think it will get you into some areas. English, every language has it. Where like if you just said that word on its own, you wouldn't really know what it means. Okay. So the first at is an object pronoun. It means something. And we'll look at these lists too. So now that we're starting to do this, then we'll just do some translation work without trying to overthink it. But then we're going to go in and start looking at some things and learning how to pull all this stuff apart. And then we'll learn everything that's in these lists, right? It's like really just learning how to manipulate these lists, and that gets you a long ways. Okay. So this one, I'm going to go for n period O. Get a little feedback on here. I'm not sure. Okay. What do you think 4n could be? If 1p is first person plural, and once you see this n, it'll be the same n in other spots. If one is first person,
Is it fourth?
it's fourth person,
Fourth non-human?
non-human. Yay! So the other one's going to be an H, right? And it does have this. It does have this. Lingi has wild pronouns, but other languages do as well. Hawaiian, you can go first person dual, first person plural inclusive, and first person plural exclusive. What do you think that means? Okay, first person, me. First person dual, us two. Just us two, right? So if it's only two people, you should technically be using that dual pronoun. First person plural inclusive.
Us all.
Us and you. First person plural exclusive.
You all. Just us.
Us, not you. I love that they have a pronoun for that. Like, we're going to eat, not you. Okay.
It's important.
So, and Lingi has a lot too. Every language has a lot of pronouns, not a big deal. But we do have this fourth person non-human. It means something. It does have a lot of special meanings in a lot of different cases. At'u that's a fourth person non-human plural. Yal'úk Tsísk'w, at, that's a fourth person non-human. Did I say plural? Okay. And then the O, object. Then we have, oh wait, I forgot to put a root marker on there. Haa. Oh, whoops. So that's eat. So for here, we're going to put the root marker, and then we're going to translate that root. Sometimes it gets tricky because some roots have multiple meanings. Like if this was, well, this is, okay, do this one next. We won't do it now, or else I'll get too distracted. We'll do it next. So, okay. Haa Atx, and then I would say relational for this one. You could say possessive, but I like to say relational just because it pops up on a verb as well. And sometimes it just shows a relationship. Chakini. That means eagle river. It doesn't mean the Eagles River. You could say Chakini, and it would. Okay, it's getting long.
But we use P for possessive when it's talking about pronouns versus
That is
relational.
true. I might. There's an argument there to change that as well. Because you don't own people.
No, you don't.
You don't own your siblings. You don't. So I'd be in favor. Okay, that's a lot of changing and a lot of documents. But I'm open. We're actually having a standardization meeting. I think I'll put that on the agenda. Let's change them both to relation.
It would be nice, and then you're not asking what's the first P and what's the second P.
Right? So we'll have one PR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll try it out. We'll try it out. Let's see. It's not going to match all the documentation. Just write more books. Okay. What about da?
Around?
Around or about? Could be either one. Yay?
Upwards.
A low tone yay would be downwards.
Okay.
A low tone K would be upwards. A high toned yay is thus. And this is interesting too, because sometimes when you take just a look at that word, it's helpful, but it's not like you got to think about thus every single time. Sometimes it's just part of the verb. Okay, now we're going to copy this one. The verb will get its own little spot. J, 0, 0, ne. What do you think the j part is?
Hand?
And? What do you think the first... If I were to color code it, I would say, okay, first 0, you go ahead and be red. Okay, second 0, you go ahead and be, oh, I gotta get my other color palette going. Purple. We haven't done those colors yet, I don't think. No, we did. Someone suggested changing colors. I don't remember.
Roy G. Biv. Roy G. Biv, isn't that it? What for the rainbow? Isn't that what you're talking about?
We're not doing the rainbow.
Yeah, we should do the rainbow.
It got shot down.
Well,
First one is subject.
Yes. Okay, so how are we going to translate? 0 subject. They. Period. 3. Period. S. So here you only put third person. You'll never put P on there because it gets pluralized with hus on the outside. Okay? Always. The third person can only be singular in the verb itself. It's different than the rest. And as a subject, it is always and forever unmarked. If a third person is doing it, there's never an audible pronoun there, ever. Well, sometimes. But that's very unusual. We'll look at those some other day. Actually, no, maybe there isn't. Okay, never mind. So what's the second one?
Classifier.
Classifier. So we're going to put CL, classifier, period, parenthesis. So what I would put here is 0, and I would be done. I would be done. Okay? If this classifier were duh, so if, for whatever reason, like if I took this exact same thing, and this was duh, then I would have it as C L period D comma 0. If it were yeah, I would have it as 0 comma I. And there's one other possibility. If it's D, it would be D comma 0 comma I. So what this shows you in the classifier is in the middle is the group. 0 group, S group, L group, SH group. To the left of that, you would put the letter D if the D is activated in the classifier. So a classifier has a natural state. You could add the letter D, and you can add the letter I, and you could do both. So as you note the classifier, when you gloss it, you put it in the parentheses.
Oh.
Well, makes sense.
Do you always do the umlaut Y when you're glossing?
Yes, I would. Except for just a second ago. Otherwise, yeah.
Things are always changing.
No, that was gonna say the same. Okay. Then nay, I would say is do.
I even go let us guess.
We get a guess on kalneek. So for this one, if I were to pull it apart, there is klesh plus. What's the first thing?
Pronoun.
Second thing. Ka. Oops. Third thing. I don't know if you folks have done one of these yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next thing. There is no subject in this verb, just so you know. The last thing.
The verb.
And when we do this, we're going to write it, the vowel will write just the same way it appears up here. Ikau'dake. Klesh. Okay. So what is klesh?
No or negative, like not.
Not. What is in?
You.
You. Now I got to put period, parenthesis. What should come next?
Second person. Singular.
Object. So I would suggest you don't need to mark singular. Just put 2 period. Oh. What is cut? Anybody know? We haven't done these yet, I don't think.
On.
It's a horizontal surface. And it is related.
Okay.
But in the verb, I would switch it to horizontal, and ya is vertical.
Oh.
Ka and ya, those are going to be the 2 most common prefixes that go right there. You're going to see them all over the place now. Ka and ya. What is y? I don't know if we've done this. That is the perfective marker. We're going to take a look at a perfective verb, and we're going to learn how to put one together. What that means, it's not a time marker. It means let's look at this verb in terms of whether or not it has happened. Once you put y in there, that's what you're signaling. Did happen, didn't happen. Became that way, didn't become that way. Now what?
Classifier
CL,
D0.
D0. And for our verb root, this one I think has 4 different meanings. Anybody want to guess on any of them? I don't know if you've. I might have talked about this verb before. I'm sure I have. In the last year and a half, I'm sure I have. But this is where it gets kind of fun. This is to follow tracks. This is like to follow footprints, or to go track an animal. Like you can go try and track a deer through the woods. That's your verb. This is also to undo sewing. Or what do you say, rip back? Is that what you say? When you tear the seams out?
You would just say rip.
Rip sewing?
No, just rip. Rip the seams.
Rip seam? I'm going to say undo. I don't know how to say
Yeah,
undo
I
sewing.
don't rip my seams.
And
You use the seam ripper,
a seam ripper, okay.
yeah, which is a tool. You can cut your seams and you can unpick your seams. Usually unpicking.
Unpicking, all of those would be kalneek. It'd usually be kalneek. Undo sewing. How would you say it this way? To undo, because you can say undo weaving,
Yeah.
I guess. Unweave.
For knitting, it's called frogging.
Frogging.
Yeah, because it's a play on words, because you're ripping it, rip it, rip it, rip it. You're like the sound of a frog,
Oh, okay.
so you're frogging.
And it has one more. Any guesses? Follow tracks, undo sewing, undo weaving, which is also, or undo knitting, which is also called frogging. And there's one that I think that is kind of related to that, but
Undo
it's kind of
yourself.
different. Well, untangle. So that verb root means all of those things. And in some cases, that verb, a kalneek. So this would be a different version of it, right? So a kalneek would mean they did that thing. So you'd say they tracked a deer. They undid their sewing. They undid their weaving. They untangled it. Okay, so it could mean any of those things. But if you said this in the positive form, so if I said T'aawáḳ, what that means is I failed completely. And the metaphor is like I just came unraveled like an old basket. Completely failed. So what do you think it means when you say T'aawáḳ?
You didn't fall apart.
Yep.
It's my favorite way to congratulate.
Yes, that's how you say good job in Lingi.
It's the best way to say good job.
It's like tipping your glass like, hey, you didn't even fall apart. Right on. Okay. Back to the reading at hand. Haa Atx Daat Yéi Jiné. Working on our food. So this is another brilliant text developed by the National Bilingual Materials Center. This one was written by Esther Shea, proofread by Vesta Dominics and Martha Shields. So you see folks in Ketchikan and Sitka. And this program was really great. It's run out of Anchorage, I think by a Hawaiian, and it produced quite a few different Tlingit texts. And so this is what they look like. And what I would like is to have one person, or I guess we could get two people. Let's get two people. Someone reads the left side, someone reads the right side. Make it sound like a conversation. Who would like to be the left side person? Okay. Who would like to be the right side person? Gook.
Gusu John.
Wukuch.
Gude sa wukuch.
Shinde wukuch.
Dat ga sa llinde wukuch.
Ask away wukuch.
Okay. So the only thing that we'll focus on keeping those vowels long in the verb. Wukuch, wukuch, wukuch. Okay, so how would I translate Gusu John?
Where's John?
Where is John? Wukuch.
Is it gathering?
No. I don't know if we've
Driving
done this.
around?
Huh?
Driving around?
Yeah, so this, now we get a motion verb, okay? For a motion verb, what motion verbs really like to have in front of it is to say, kind of where did it go? Ade, adach, akanach, adat, right? Nate. It likes to have those things, but if it doesn't have it, so you usually have like went by boat or car, towards a place, from a place, to a place, around a place. If you just have the verb on its own, wukuch, he went boating. Now you just have, he went boating. Huh.
You don't have original sound for musicians.
T'aawáḳ. No, it's on for me. Oops. Wrong text. Same color. Okay. Gutesawukuch.
Where did he go boating?
Where did he go boating? Llain de wukuch.
You went boating train day.
Yeah, he went llain de. Everybody know llain?
I'm guessing maybe collecting.
Where would he gather that thing that he's holding? It's shakask. Where do you get shakask? Grocery store?
Like.
Dana dakihiti?
Tidal flats.
Yes, the tide flats. Llain. Llain de wukuch. Boated to the tide flats. Dat qasa llain de wukuch. Here's another thing. Like I had an English instinct to go dat qasa llain de wukuch. Right? Wukuch. Not around. Dat qasa.
Usually means like for or something.
What they go there for? What they gonna get? What they gonna get from the tide flats? Right? Dat qasa. What they go after? Shakaska. Away wukuch. He went for, which is
They're holding a type of seaweed that I don't remember the shekak. No.
uch yacheti.
Black seaweed.
Black seaweed. Shakask. Wait.
Shakaska.
Shakaska. So you take a noun and you can put ka for that noun. Kahweqa. Chayuqa. Qatqa.
To say that you're getting it?
Going to get it, yeah.
Oh.
Going after it. And it also works for a person. Dutla, iqa. But then you got to put e after them.
So are you just saying wukuch to make things easier? Because I mean, like if you're gathering them, you know, because you said he's boating around, right? I mean, because he wouldn't be boating around to get it. He's getting it off the tide flats, right?
Yeah, so so this sentence that would technically be what he go after there, what he go after when boating to the tide flats, right? Why did he go there? What did he go there to get? So the qa, it literally means to go after something. You know, like I'm going to go after them. I'm going to go find them. It's a little bit different than itch, which is to follow. Itch is to follow. Qa is to go for. Like you're traveling there to get it. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go pick them up. I'm going to go, and, you know, it's for, but it also implies like you're going there to get it.
Okay.
And because we had shaqask, now we have to look at this thing that I made a long time ago. And just do a slightly different translation exercise. So he said, oh wait, hold on. Let me make this a little smaller. So he says, Cake has
the best black seaweed.
yes. Cake black seaweed is better. Cake tan da chakask cake.
Seaweed from Prince of Wales tastes better.
Yes. No. Black seaweed from Prince of Wales is really very delicious to me. You don't
know.
You don't know nothing.
Maybe your dad knows.
What would achyedi be?
My children?
Child.
Maybe you're my kid.
Maybe you're not my child.
I hope.
Yeah, I wish.
I wish.
Chair.
This chair.
Where my father was my father.
Wish this chair was my father. Kayakajit yadich isiti kayaka ikade atukakwa.
The chair child.
What is it? Yes.
I said a chair is my child.
Child is your real father?
Yes, you are truly a child of the chair. Ikade itukakwa. That's a rough ending. I gotta get it off the screen. I'll get it off the screen. I'll tell you. I'm gonna sit my butthole down on you. Okay, I need 2 more readers. There won't be any dirty memes that follow this. Okay? I just had fun with this. But that's a verb from a raven story. It means to really sit upright. Who wants to be left reader? Ah, right reader? Cook?
Gusuan
Ugut.
adu insa uat.
T'aawáḥ wu'at. Gas has akakwaah.
Kakwaha. Okay, cheesh. Okay, translation. Gusu an.
Where's Sam?
Where's Anne?
When walking.
Went walking. Adu insa uat.
Who are they going to see?
Close. That would be adu khande sa bugut.
Who did you go walking with?
Yeah, who'd she go walking with? So now you see a do in sa, who with sa, say, name it. Now the wu'at is the plural form of wugut. Once it's more than one person, it has to switch to ot. This is another thing that motion verbs do. They're the trickiest of the verbs, I think, because they will change their conjugation type and then they will change for plural. That's the reason why they're tricky.
Got a real quick question. If I said I walked with my dog, would I use goot or I?
Well, there's more than one of you, so you would say ah,
Okay.
unless you carried your dog.
Okay.
Spoiled dog.
Tired.
Do you spoil your dog?
Du tla in wu'at.
She walks a touch and stuff.
She walked with her mom.
She walked with her mom. Now, I will say it's unusual to just have wu'at. You'd usually have hus wu'at. But in this case, you're saying do in, so we already know, but then that plural marker doesn't pop up, which is a bit unusual. Most of the time, if you're using this ot verb, there's going to be a plural marker. Tu-ot, has-wu'at, yi-ot. Let's say it's going to cheese hat yi-ati. Gach, has-ak, akak-waha.
They went to get clams.
Yes. And that verb is to dig it up. Okay. So this also shows you some verbs that you use for food. Has-akak-waha. There's that ka, that horizontal surface popping up again. Who's going to read the left one? How about some online folks? Anybody? You guys so quiet out there.
Okay. Okay.
And then the right? Ook.
Goose, Margaret.
Du in wu'at.
Gudesa haswuat.
At'un has wu'at.
Da sahas athun. Athun.
Gach.
Sheesh. Okay, translation. Gusu Margaret.
Where's Margaret?
Where's Margaret? De chuch in wu'at.
She went walking with her husband.
She went walking with her husband. Gudesa has wu'at.
Where did they go walking?
Where did they go? At'un has wu'at.
Hunting, they went walking?
Yes, there are a set of verbs where you can use. You could say At'un has wu'at. They went hunting. At'eich has wu'at. They went dancing. Yéi Jiné has wu'at. They went to work. There is a set of verbs that would work as basically nouns in this case.
Une.
Ah,
When you said sa in there, did you say that says oh shucks. Tell?
it's the command form for name it.
Oh wow, that's great.
Name where they went.
I just love that. The word order is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Dasa hasatun.
What are they hunting?
What are they hunting? Oh,
Duck.
duck. Yeah, wow. Okay, one more, then break time. Who's gonna read left side? Atnacha Adisa.
I can do that.
Okay. Chinach Gook. Who said your left side? Go.
Me? I think it was me.
Okay.
Rasha, can
Me,
we
Sue Paul.
Who's right side?
Rasha.
Oh. Gook.
Dukak in wuat.
Kudasa haswuat. Well, Kudasa haswuat.
At'un has wuat.
Dasa has atun. Atun.
Guwakan awe has at'un.
Sheesh. Okay, translation. Gusu Paul.
Where's Paul?
Where's Paul? Dukak in uat.
With his maternal uncle.
With his maternal uncle. Gudesa hasbuat.
Where they go walking.
Atun hasbuat. They went hunting. Dasa has atun.
What are they hunting?
What are they hunting? Guwakan awe has atun. They're hunting deer. Okay. Any questions? Okay, we got 11 more pages of this, but maybe we'll save it for another time. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do something a little different. Jeez. Want to crunch into that? Okay. All right. Tried to mirror screens, but it did not work. Okay. So now, go down there. Go up there. We're going to talk about the verb for a little bit. And so this is a slideshow designed to get us thinking about the Tlingit verb, talking about it, looking at all the different components. And we're going to take, it's sort of like, well, it's like we're going to show you how like an engine works. We would show you just like, okay, here's the engine, here's the wheels. Got it? Or how a car works. But then as you learn more, like, oh, well, here's the engine, here's the carburetor, here's the muffler. So we start showing you more and more sort of components. And you can get very detailed in terms of what you're looking at. But the idea is to do like sort of a step-by-step approach to say, here are the things you really need to get in order to use it, right? And a lot of what we're going to learn how to do is how to start shifting things within it and seeing how they interact with each other. Because once you can do that, you can speak the language. Like that is how you unlock the language. As a second language learner who grew up speaking English, unless one option would be to have a speaker, you go live with them for a couple years and you only speak Tlingit and you don't let a lot of people come visit you, right? But that's, if we have 90 speakers left and maybe 20 people who can full on speak the language, it's just probably not going to happen. We certainly can have immersions and other stuff where we don't have to think about all this stuff. And we can practice having immersions in here, which we'll start doing, because you can't just do this stuff either. Because then you'll just know about it, but you won't know how to do it, right? But it is important to do this step, right? So this is a step where a lot of people, they get out of the boat and they just swim back to shore, right? And so, but we're going to stay in the boat. We'll be just fine. It's a piece-by-piece examination of how the language works. It's important as you go forward to engage in conversations with other people who have learned Tlingit using these methods, because they're thinking about classifiers and they're thinking about conjugation prefixes. And if other people aren't, then you just got to hang out with some people who are doing this stuff as well, whether that's with each other, with advanced learners, with other people who've been through all the classes, whatever. And we'll talk as well. The advanced group has set up study groups. I think at some point I'll just send out like an email I'll try and email like everybody. I don't know how I'll do that, but I'll try and just send an email out to everybody who's enrolled in beginning, intermediate, or advanced Tlingit, so we could set up study times. There's a Zoom link that's always open. It's separate from the one I use to teach classes, and the intention of that is to have a study space. We're trying to convince the Sealaska Corporation to buy a house here in Juneau that we could use as a language house. There's a language lab. We have a space right upstairs that's just ours on this campus, and that can be used. So we will explore some different ways for folks to get together and to study and to talk.
What's in the language lab?
Right, we have one.
Yeah, where is
It's
it?
exciting.
Tables and chairs
It's just empty.
Is it
and
like a sound
boxes
booth?
of books. No, it's just a small classroom.
All right.
But we can start opening it up too. We kind of stopped using it once COVID hit. Before COVID, there was study groups regularly, sometimes meeting before class, and so It's, if folks wanted to set it up and to use it, like it's there, and we could just have it be open at certain times. Like it's usually locked.
If at a time that I was free, someone was like, there's snacks at this table and you can only speak Tlingit there, I would go there.
Right? And yeah, and so we were engaged in some pretty cool discussions. I think at one point we did have coffee there and snacks like all the time, and people could just go. And so we could engage in some conversations with like the NRSC and other folks to try and get it going again, because it stalled. We also had these visions like, I can get the space, but I'm not good at making a space livable and usable. It just looks like a junkies, like an old classroom. And so like we kind of had thoughts about what we can do, because we do have, as far as the future of UAS, it's going to go through some transformations. And let's just talk about those transformations for a quick sec. So one of them is there's probably going to be a big transformation in the center of the library. And there's a classroom back there that's probably going to become one of the main language classes. So we'll bounce back and forth between the room right next to us here and in that room. But we're going to indigenize that room. So it's going to be, it'll just feel like a Tlingit room. And I will get primary claim to it. We'll see. Then there is a lab right up there. We just call it a lab. It's not really a lab. It's just we don't know what else to call it.
Your office?
No, my office is over there. At one time I had 2 offices and then I had that space. So my goal, I was doing reverse settler tactics, right? They just came and squatted on our land and it became theirs. So I was like, that's how you do it? So I just started claiming, especially as they started letting people go here. And they were just not replacing them. I was like, you got an empty place? I had to throw some stuff in. That was just I just kind of put stuff in here. And then they'd say temporary language lab. And I'd just put T'aawáḳ over it, which means forever. So now that is Yaravara's office. And then Heather Burge has an office. I have an office. And then there's a space right up there. It's a small classroom that we could use for whatever we want. Game nights, whatever. At some point, probably in the next 5 years, there will be a longhouse constructed north of here, up facing the lake. There will probably be a food sovereignty station set up over on the Anderson, near the Anderson building, which is across the way over there. And we'll have fish cutting classes and, we can do marine mammal classes, but I think it's going to have to be in partnership with indigenous entities, because only indigenous people will be able to technically work on them. But other people can certainly observe. Then there's some classrooms in the lower level of the Whitehead building that are currently for natural sciences, or environmental sciences, I guess, and mapping. And that's going to be taken over by the Northwest Coast Arts Studio. So that's in the sort of, in the plan, in the works. But we've had some turnover and a bunch of other stuff going on. And I'm chronically overworked and disorganized, so everything's just kind of in state right now. But I think it's important. So there's the Zoom link, there's these spaces, and what we need is like to figure out some partnerships and to make these more active. We also have relationships with Global Heritage Foundation, Yal'úk Heritage Institute, Tlingit and Haida, and so there's ways to sort of try and collaborate, because there's Haa Atx is doing Tlingit language classes, Tlingit and Haida is doing Tlingit language classes, and so there's got to be ways to sort of push this stuff a little bit closer together. As we're sort of come out of COVID, I think there hasn't been a whole lot of sort of like inter-organizational coordination on how we're going to do this stuff for language activities. And so, but we have spaces and we have people who are learning and we have resources. And so it's just a matter of getting those things together. Douglas Indian Association has purchased a bunch of books for learners. The Alaska Heritage Institute has done the same. Global Heritage Foundation has done the same. So think about it. We also have a base camp, which I think I just let it go. And we have a Discord, but I kind of let it go. But I was trying to encourage like an entity to hire like a language program social coordinator, because it's not going to be me. I'm happy to show up and teach people and to use the language and to engage, but I'm not going to be good at keeping everybody in the loop, and it's just not the thing I do. Okay. Thoughts or questions about any of that stuff?
The NRSCs, we haven't like figured out a time or like what's actually happening, but there's plans to this semester have some sort of recurring Tlingit, like only speaking Tlingit time within the NRSC. Wuchin, I think, is like the club that's making it,
Mhm.
but we'll have more information probably within the next couple weeks.
Okay.
And also I think monthly is what we were talking about doing like an outings, like going to a cafe or something and like kind of breaching that mental barrier of like, oh, this is for school settings,
Right.
you know, and then taking it out.
Well, I think, yeah, it'd be so, like, working with local restaurants, just saying, we'll all pay, but can we just reserve the whole restaurant and have a Tlingit? Because there was what's the Italian restaurant called here? I don't speak that language. In Buco,
There's Lupo and there's Roma.
Lupo, right? That's all I can remember is the Lupo. I think Roma closed.
They reopened
They reopened?
last week.
What?
Yes.
This is
Amazing.
the third time I've heard about it in the last 24 hours. Last week.
So I went into the Lupo place, and Akshat Mariah was looking at the menu, and she said, "Check out the menu. You might hate it." And I looked, and they had Tlingit names for drinks. And initially, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Then they were non-alcoholic drinks, so I loved it. And they were called like Tak Nagu and Tsísk'w, and so blackberry urine and winter medicine. They had clever names. It was very well done, right? So I do think there would be ways for restaurants to sort of just say, and could we promote the idea? They give us a little discount. But we could pay whatever. So yeah, I think it would be great to do stuff like that, so that we can just use the language, live in the language, because one of the big problems is that the language doesn't exist anywhere, right? So okay. Anything else?
Someone in the chat.
Oh, sheesh. US Sitka Conversation Group Fridays 4 to 5. Tomorrow is online. Not sure how to share the link. Oh, sheesh. Okay. Yeah, and so we do have a Zoom link. I think it's on our class webpage. I'll make sure that it's there. Right. It says for conversations, you can use this link. Okay. So when we get to this phase of Tlingit language learning, we're going to do an awful lot of drills. And now the drills are going to be like tables, right? Just putting these different verbs, and you're going to see the English there, and then I'm going to ask you to come up with the Tlingit. So it's not so much like a full-on translation exercise. It's saying, well, how would you say this? I love you. I love you all. I love them. I love them all. I love people. I love something, right? That's what we're going to do. And the goal here is to like really internalize these changes and how to make them, with the idea that eventually you'll be able to naturalize that process, and you'll be able to just think it and then say it. And then eventually you won't have to think it in English, you'll just sort of be able to say it. Like, it does happen. It takes a lot of repetition, right? So outside of the times that we're together, you're also going to figure out what's your strategy going to be in terms of what you're going to study. And we'll talk about some strategies and some things that you could do. So itlaqi, your brain, kaki'aq, yakikitlaq. You're going to try, you're going to succeed. So we are going to look at objects and subjects. That's going to be one of the first things we start looking at. And then we'll look at the perfective, the negative perfective, the future. And then that will probably get us near the end of the semester. But the idea is if you can do those, you can do an awful lot with the language. And then we just got to start learning more and more and more verbs. Right? Then you got to become a verb gobbler. You got to become the monster. It's like looking for verbs that you can eat. Starving for those verbs, right? Language is gaining strength. You are the one that helps that happen. Like the whole Not to put too much pressure on you, but the entire future of the Tlingit language is in your hands. And it's really up to you. But that's a day-to-day, moment-by-moment decision in terms of what happens to our language. And so it has to be deciding to speak, deciding to use it, deciding to engage, deciding to, it's a two routine. Oh, I should write that one down. I shared this with the class yesterday. So this is a phrase, one of my favorite phrases. It's a two routine. And it means go by your own ambition. So, Daat Yéi Jiné, Haa Atx, Huawei what Lingi Tangitin. One Kanins Kunahoe aus Ku Yahayu Tangi. Where at Kachako it's a te away her Kunaho at Kachako it's a te. Do in aya aayí outlet a de kadu chak ya. A ga away we hit kutia dak hiti aye hawutien. The cut yech away. Satu asako. Kayecha shavings, you do a sako at kak inach. Khaka konea khadahitko. Hoha is a two routine yak. What did I say? Daat Yéi Jiné. Like Nathan Jackson.
Maternal Uncle Yeshiadi.
Kunahoe at Kachak at te away her.
You were speaking shavings.
Well, we'll get to that part. Kunahoe at Kachak at te. He's a master woodcarver. They're named after the scoop chisel for some reason. Aayí outlet a de kadu chak yeah. Aayí outlet Aayí outlet a de kadu chak yeah. He was teaching me how to carve. Kutia daka hitiyich.
Totem pole.
House of the totem pole?
Yeah, like a carving shed, right? It's where they make those things. The cut yech, and I can't remember. Hold on, wood shavings. Kayechi. The cut yech. There were wood shavings all over. I started to sweep them. Is a two routine. And he said, it's a two routine. That's great. And that means go by your own ambition. And this is a really important phrase for Tlingit, I think. That means don't wait for the thing to happen. Make it happen. Nothing will stop you, right? And so we got the technologies, we've got social networks, we've got whatever it's going to take. Organize a study group, organize an event, and let's engage in some conversations about how to make this stuff more possible. And the classes are hybrid, and I think it's fabulous, and we're going to keep them that way. There were times, though, where we just went to Fred Meyer as a class, and Fred Meyer they weren't happy about it. I wish they had said, "This sounds wonderful. We'll make announcements in the language." But they weren't against it, but I think they just said, "Just don't get in anybody's way." So I was like, "Gee, on our land." So, anyways, that's why I'm not the social coordinator. I don't know how to finesse people or make it happen. Although there were some students, and so I gave them, I made a map, right? Let's see if I can find it. Oh, Fred Meyer phrases. Oh, it's so long ago. No. Scavenger hunt. Okay. So this is what I did. Let me share this document. I'll find the maps on the other day. So I had a map, and I had named all these different regions, like the frozen food place, the place where they cut meat, the place, I'd basically named the toys, and then I said, okay, everybody gets one of these little pieces of paper. And on these pieces, like, so your paper might say Haa Atx, Oina, Una, Kucheta, T'aawáḳ. It's back when they sold guns. They don't do that anymore. And the first hour, we made groups, and every group contained at least one person in beginning Tlingit, one person in intermediate, one person in advanced. For the first hour, they just went around and named as many things as they could. They spent an hour walking through Fred Meyer, naming things. Weren't allowed to speak English. Gave them little pieces of paper that they can give, and it was always their relatives, right? This is what I mean. So I gave them this little piece of paper that said, we're in Tlingit immersion, we're not trying to be rude, but we're not going to speak English. Please try and understand. And so they would give this to people, and usually people were like, oh, whoops. But it was always like their real close relatives. Oh, really? Well, how's it going? They're just like pointing at the thing. Then we met and we reconvened and we took a little break and we talked about how it went. For the second hour, everybody got one piece of paper, and this piece of paper had, like 5 things on it, right? So if this was your piece of paper, you would start with Haa. You were allowed to tell them which part of the store it was in, but then you couldn't point at it. You had to describe it and make them find what the thing is. It was so fun. It was a lot of fun. And then there was a group walking around and having fun and doing that, trying to stay out of people's way. Somebody, like, I'm not going to try and stereotype them. These 2 people were there, and they said, they want to live in America. They better learn to speak English. So then we learned how to say Nana'i and death for you and stuff. But language on the land. So we'll talk through this semester too about different things we can do. It could be, we got Friday nights, Saturday nights. So there's different times that can happen. We could partner with different groups, and then there's recordings. There's lots of different stuff that's out there. Okay, back to the task at hand. These are the main parts of the Tlingit verb that I need you to really master. They go in this order, they have certain functions, and there are certain things that go in each of these spaces. So this slide has I forgot to put the names on them. Shucks. Yeah, okay, the green is the preverb. Oh, whew. Okay, you're going to help me put this back together. What's the blue?
Brown's the postword.
The brown is, no.
Oh yeah, you changed the colors.
Root, 'cause it's got that square root thing.
What's that?
Well, the brown is the root. 'Cause
The
it's-
brown is the root and the stem. What is the difference between a root and a stem? There's a podcast called Roots and Stems. The root is the meaning. What does that mean? T is to be. There's another T, which is to handle a compact object. Stem is the vowel. Short and high, long and high, long and low. It's important to remember those. Roots and stems, roots and stems. You know the meaning, but then we got to predict what is that vowel going to be. It is predictable most of the time. Oh, that's an old version. Yes, I know. I'll have to update that thing with the new color scheme. The problem with learning Tlingit with me is I change the way I do things every 3 years or so. And I'm very inconsistent with everything. But Now it's consistent with how it is now.
It's not cheating to use the materials that your teacher gave you.
Using your resources.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like when the books are on the syllabus to tell you to get, that would be more useful.
What else are these things? What other things are in here?
That's a classifier.
Object is the red, right?
Object is the red. Oh wait, no, subject is the red.
Oh, shoot. Subject is the red.
Gray is the object.
Blue is the object.
Blue is the object. Okay, there we go. Blue is the object, red is the subject.
Is gray conjugation?
Gray is conjugation.
Purple is classifier.
Purple is the classifier.
Pink is thematic.
Pink is thematic.
Oh, thank God.
What's the dark pink?
Oh, that fuchsia?
God forbid if you're colorblind.
I know. I tried this with, the first time I tried something like this is with handling verbs. Then I had to start using patterns because it's like, what am I going to do? Like 16 shades of blue?
Stem variation.
Suffix. And post verb. We got them all. Look, we got them all. Whew. Finally recovered this file that had the names on there. That was very scary. Okay. Preverb, object, thematic, conjugation, subject, classifier, stem, suffix, post verb. There are more things than this. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, the stem variation, the outer, the areolis, the inner, corrective modal, all these little,
Yes.
little things.
We will get to them in time. Right? It's like when I learned Hawaiian. When I was learning Hawaiian. I didn't learn Hawaiian because I can't speak it. But when I was learning it, they said, here's the first person plural pronoun. It's like, I got it. Okay, I got it. Oh, right? I got it. And then when I went to talk to some other Hawaiian learners, they said, did they tell you there's 3 of them? I was like, no, there's 3 of them? They said, yeah, because a person has 3 belly buttons on your head, on your belly button, and then your groin. And the head connects you to, let's see if I remember this. The head connects you to the spiritual world. The belly button connects you to your ancestors because that's how your mama fed you. And the groin connects you to your future generations because that's how you're going to make them. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And so when you use a possessive pronoun, you have to know which one they're connected to.
Where's the top connected to again?
Spiritual world. I think that's how it went. It was years ago. So if you speak Hawaiian, don't come at me if I was wrong.
Do you know you have the old colors and the newest edition too? The colors of
In the 3rd edition, when the verb book comes out, change. That's why they're on demand. Low runs. Okay.
That's why you need to switch to the rainbow.
No rainbow. No rainbow.
That's consistency around the world. Everybody will know what the rainbow means. I'm telling you. It will rearrange your whole world into so much order.
Yeah.
some rainbow.
Okay. But they always have to go in this order, right? When they start to contract, you will get some instances where some things will jump over things. That does happen. So then we're going to start going through and learning what are all these parts, what goes in there, how do they affect the verb. And the biggest thing is when you start moving the verb into a perfective, into a command, into a hortative, what exactly happens and then how do those things fit together, right? We'll get to it. But for now, when we look up a verb, this is what we're going to see now. This color scheme that's in the dictionary that matches this color scheme we just looked at, roughly, I think. So, we do have a preverb here. And what does this preverb mean? Yay. Thus. And why is it in parentheses?
Is it because does it show up visually in the verb? Like, did it get squished out?
It's there, but it can be replaced by other things. That's what that parentheses means. Okay, so you're going to hear yeyati, yewuti, but if you say yach, now it becomes yachyati, yachwuti. If you're going to say atinach yati, Now it doesn't. Now the yay doesn't need to be there, right? So the yay says if you're just saying it is that way, then use yay. But if you want to say it was this, then the yay goes away. It can be replaced by something specific.
Could you remind me how the stem vowel changes again? It's high and short.
Short, high,
Short and high.
long and high,
Long and high.
long and low. Those are your three options. Every now and then, you'll get a short and low. But that's only because something took the tone away from it.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So there's the yay, right? It's optional. In this verb, it likes to be there. Sometimes in some verbs, like Yéi Jiné, it just has to be there. It'll be there every time. Can't get substituted. But this one, there's like 20 different yati verbs. Right? And I'll show you like all the ones that I know. Okay. And what is the O? The object. And what is an object?
It's the thing that's receiving the action.
Yes, right? So the object is the one the verb happens to. In Tlingit, for state verbs, most of them use objects though. So you would say me good, me strong. So just like the Hollywood Indian, right? It's just how it is. Okay. There are some verbs, it's rare, they will use an object pronoun for a subject. It's rare. But you will see it, right? You could say, Ade ha shuwaguk. We ran over there.
How would you say that way? Like not that way? Or like, because that's sort of like an object of what, like a preposition? Don't do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if you were using the yati verb, like yeyati would be it is that way. And then you would say T'aawáḳ Yéi Jiné. It is not that way. And then if you're trying to say do it that way, I guess I would, So
We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. They seem related.
So yenasne would be do it. So then I guess I would need a bit more context because I think you would have to specify. Or if you're trying to tell someone, I think you would end up telling someone you're doing it wrong instead of saying don't do it that way. Maybe. So you could say T'aawáḳ Yéi T'aawáḳ Yéi Jiné, I think. So, well, you could say Ach Atx Yenasne. Do it the way I told you. You could say that. And then you could say Daat Yéi Jiné T'aawáḳ Utí. The way you are doing it is wrong.
And you would say, do it that way.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the one I like.
T'aawáḳ Utí. Daat Yéi Jiné. But that's actually the way you did it, right? We'll stick with that, like the doing it. Okay, I think you'd say we're gonna change the word order. T'aawáḳ Utí. Daat Yéi Jiné. Yeah. You are doing it wrong.
Where's the yay part of?
What's that?
Daat Yéi.
Okay. So there is this yeah thing that can pop up in the post verb, right? So, for example, let's say there was someone famous around here, right? Like Nathan Jackson, right? The place where he was working. So you would say, Yéi Jiné, yeah. Or actually, it's a Yéi Jiné, yeah. So Yéi Jiné, yeah would be the place they worked. So you can put, if you look up in the place name dictionary, I'll keep giving you guys stuff to do. Someday you'll show me what you did. Okay, so Tuesday, we're going to start with your 4 sentences.
Oh.
For real, it's going to happen.
You guys didn't do it?
You're going to show me 1 sentence from the Catherine Mills Raven and Whale story. You're going to show me 1 sentence from the T'aawáḳ speech, which you've already done. You've already done all of this stuff. You just haven't shown me yet. Then you're going to look in the place name book, and you're going to find 1 place name that has yeah in it.
And there are 4 sentences.
Yeah,
We're
so
really
that's
good at
4
getting
things.
all-
That's going to be the whole class. It's just you guys show me all this work you've already done. Just go look at Advanced Lingi. They've got assignments too.
No, the
'Cause-
assignments are fine, or we can actually review them.
Yes. But it's the beginning of the semester. I've got stuff to show you. And I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting. Somebody remind me. Somebody say, Haa Atx. Don't forget our work. Blah. Okay. So if you put yeah after a verb, it means the place the verb happened, right? What was my example last semester with the, I don't know if it was you guys or with the other class.
Is Lady Gaga? Was
Lady Gaga, aayí, the place where Lady Gaga walked, right? So we'd say Lady Gaga. We'll say aayí. Right? There's a few rules here. We're not going to worry about the rules. We're just going to say the yeah at the end means the place that it happened. You're going to find a whole bunch of them in that place name book. The place where Raven swung, the place where this happened, the place where the halibut fisher's wife melted. There's a place called that, right? If you said Haa Lady Gaga, wugudi, yeah. So this would be the place Lady Gaga walked. And now this is like a place name, right? Lady Gaga, wugudi, yeah. Lady Gaga, wugudi, yeah. If you put Ade at the front and yeh at the end, they're like grammar bookmarks. And when they meet each other, they say, let's change the meaning. And now it becomes the way Lady Gaga walked there.
And what was the odd day part? I missed that.
It literally just means towards it. But when you put Ade and yeh, they shake hands and say, it doesn't matter what we mean individually.
Okay.
We work together to say the way. And that's how you talk about the way someone does something. It's really good the way you worked on that, right? Okay. Jeez.
Just imagine them shaking hands and being, this is the way.
Yeah, oh, what? Okay. What's the purple? Classifier, right? So there's the classifier. It changes what the verb does. Agency. Is it that way or did somebody do it? Classification. Is it this type of thing or that type of thing? Reflexive. Did somebody do it to themselves? And then sometimes it has to do with the transitivity of the verb. Is there an object? Is there a subject? Okay. Then we get to the brown. Right. Just this part here. Don't worry about this little H or this little 1 yet. What does this part do? The T. Yes. So the verb root contains meaning. This verb root means to be. Right? It's the be verb. Okay, so be is yati. Be a certain type of thing, siti. Switches to S because now we're classifying. Right? We're putting things in boxes, which Tlingit loves to do. It's all bentwood boxes, a whole house full of them. What does this little H do?
Is that the variation?
That's the stem variation, right? So this marks, and so there's a little X sometimes. The little X means it never changes. Khan, it will be khan every time. There's not very many that are like that. But then there's two things that are going to be marked when it comes to stem variation. The little H, you don't have to worry about it right now. But all it means is for repetitive forms it stays low. Because there's going to be a couple of things that tell you what the vowel does. The verb mode, perfective, future, command. The stem variation, and we'll talk about what, there's these different types. There's these 5 types of stems. The conjugation type, 0, na, ga, ka. Those 3 things will combine, and then you'll just have to remember a 0 perfective that's closed always wants to be short and high. We'll get to this. We'll look at a whole bunch of examples that will make sense. Tlingit has lots of stuff, but there's only so many things.
Oh.
And what does the little number 1 do?
Multiple versions or meanings for the T.
It's a homonym, yes. So there's a T number 2, which means to carry a general or compact object. There's another T, which means to imitate something. I think for ton, I think there's like 11 or 12 of them. Right? For some of them, there's a whole bunch. Some of them, there's only 1. Okay. But that's all that means. It's just like, this is that one set of them. Here's that other set of them. What about this na thing? What's that tell you? In parentheses.
Conjugation.
The conjugation type, right? So conjugation type, there's 4 of them. 0, na, ga, and qa. And whatever you see for that verb, that's what it will be. So as you'll get to this point where you'll look at a verb theme like this, and you'll scan it, and you'll say, I know how to use that verb now. All I had to do was look it up. And for some of them, they're not all written out like this. Not every verb is written out like this. So you'll find it in the verb dictionary. You learn how to do some different cross-referencing. Like, okay, that one's qa conjugation. I got it. I know how to use it in all these different ways. You will reach that point. Right? What about the state verb? What's that telling you?
It only takes object, right?
They usually do. There are some that have a subject. Love is a state verb.
Really?
In Tlingit,
Wow.
it takes a subject. But most of them are only objects. But just this part, what is it telling you though?
The
Now-
type of verb.
Yeah, the verb type, right? So now you have verb type, motion, act, event, state, position. Right, so then it's just another thing to remember. For this one, it says state verb, imperfective will have a plus I classifier, right? For now, you'll say yati. If you look on the chart, it's plus I. Okay. And this last thing, what does this tell you? Object intransitive.
Tells you the transitivity.
Transitivity, right? All that means, all that word transitivity means, and you don't have to, there's some of these words you don't have to remember them. You don't. All you got to remember is some of them only have an object, some of them only have a subject, some of them have both, some of them have neither. And it will tell you. There's 2 ways it tells you. If you want to use the word transitive, it's right there. Otherwise, you look here and you see an O, It has an object, you can't take it away. There's no S, there's no subject, you can't add it. It has to stay the same. So when you look at the theme, those are things that cannot change. You cannot change it. You just have to accept what is there. So then you do end up, there's transitive. That means there's both an object and a subject. Subject and transitive, only a subject. Object and transitive, only an object. Impersonal, neither. Nobody makes it rain, just rains every day in Chino. We're interviewing chancellors today, like potential future chancellors, and someone's like, how do you feel about weather? And he's like, I don't mind the snow. And we're like, we're not talking about the snow, brother. You okay with 300 days of rain?
I know, I remember you do that rain artwork in Trinket.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, like the
Right.
different kinds of rain.
Yeah, the one that's a Kindred Post. I was like, this would be so much better in Trinket.
Kasecha,
Right?
you.
It's a beautiful woodblock. It would be so much better in Trinket.
Oh, yeah, okay, okay. Okay. Any questions about this stuff? We're about out of time. When we look at this again, we'll start running through examples, right? So all of this stuff, every time we learn a new concept in Tlingit, I think it's very abstract. There's lots of terms. There's lots of things pointing at different things. But when we start running it through examples, you'll see how all of these things go. They all interact. The act of speaking and understanding is really wild to me, because for Tlingit, like you could say something like, Ajoe a atinecha yati. That's the yati verb is in there, right? Ajoe a atinecha yati. And so you catch that T verb, and then your brain goes back to gobble up that other information, right? And so it's really interesting the way that it works, because the atinecha is all part of the verb. You can't remove any of those pieces without completely changing that verb. Ajoe is just sort of before the verb. That is why we need it. But then you'll learn how all those different parts work together. And I think a lot of it is just sort of like going through, blowing it up, and then we're going to go through one thing at a time and start changing. And we're going to start going through different verbs and looking at them. What does it mean for it to be this type of verb? What is that conjugation type? What does it tell you?
You have a video on your YouTube that is called the Tlingit Grammar that you did with Gold Belt Heritage a while ago. Forever ago. Is that still I've watched it. Would you still recommend for us to continue to watch it, or has so much been updated since then that you would not recommend that anymore?
No, I think that one was fine, because it really just focuses on objects and subjects and what happens when you switch them.
Oh.
Someone was mad because there's background music on it. Take a deal with it. It's just real soft music. Like I was trying to make it like calm and whatever. But yeah, I'll probably make another one pretty
It
soon.
sounds fine on my sound bar.
Okay. Okay. I'll put this on our class webpage. You have written 4 sentences that are in some sort of order. We'll share them. When we start on Tuesday, I'm not going to say anything. I'll say, Gook, it's your turn. Doing this for 3 classes now, 4.
I think since the first class.
Just tell him out like that.
But Tuesday will be Cajun.
Yeah, so for your 5th class, finally, 4 is a good number in Tlingit, right? The 4th time he told us to do something, that's when it happened, and he asked. You're going to see, this is just like our oratory. It's just a Tlingit tradition. So you share your 4 sentences. You will show us 1 sentence from Catherine Mill's Raven and the Whale. You show us 1 sentence from Kitchnach, from the speeches from Because We Cherish You. I have one other thing.
Yeah.
You'll do something. Yes, you'll find a place name from Hashishko Hasani Kasanku. I will put that under our class handouts, and it's the place name book by Tom Thornton. You're gonna find 1 place name that uses yeah. That's all. You do it all tonight. Easy. You'll obtain it easily.
Well, especially since all of those should have been done except for one before now.
Oh, they're all done already except for one, yeah, maybe two.
Yeah, all done already.
I still don't see the website updated.
I think you gotta force the refresh, right? Because
Yeah, it's on your end. You need a refresh.
it's not me, it's you.
Oh,
Go ahead. Go
It's
ahead.
probably,
Refresh it.
it's probably me too.
yeah, it was a bookmark, so it didn't.
Oh, yeah. I
Wait,
think it
towards
was
water,
refreshed.
is that what you're saying?
Is it
Russia?
refreshed?
The question in the chat?
Refresh over here.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, to water something,
Oh,
like to pour water on a plant.
I think it's,
I have been through like all of the versions of the verb dictionary that I can find. I'm like going through all this. I just like can't.
so, would is wet. So we're gonna look up ak as a verb root. If these
To
aging,
make a plant wet on purpose.
Mhm.
I carried the water to the plant.
Well, it's gonna be I wetted it.
Or wet by pouring on or immersion.
So it's gonna be under wet. And it's gonna be wet by sprinkling for a plant, I
Well-
think. But it depends if you're pouring it out of like a pitcher.
Also
Or if you
depends
have one
on
of
what
those ones
type
with
of plant it is, like orchids,
Or
you can
how
take
you
into the shower and do it under the shower, same with like citrus trees.
Yeah.
Once a month by watering it, you take into the shower.
Usually I like drown them and then let them dry.
Once a month
Orchid?
to every
No, just plants in general, just like.
So this is actually a great question for what we just talked about. So we see a plus D classifier to be that way, would dekuk. An L classifier, somebody does it, aushekuk. To wet the surface of the surface is wet, kadekuk. There's that horizontal right there. To make it wet by sprinkling water on it, kadekuk. For it to be wet outside, like wet weather, basically. There's our verb of the year this year. It's just for us in Akwan Ani. And then you have to soak something, which is a little bit different, and then for an animal especially to be soaked. Soaked, dripping wet,
So
and so those are a little different. But basically it's this ak verb is what you're going to be looking at.
What is a thonging?
right, I was like, I know,
Main gonna sheesh.
but I've never ing'd it.
Which one? Is it
Thonging?
down here?
No, yes, Yandy.
Oh, okay. Zos. Zos has a good translation in Canada. Babiche. We don't use that word in the United States, I don't think. It's leather cut into strips like when you're going to make snowshoes.
Oh.
And it was called thong, like 40 years ago. But I think the word thong transitioned to a flip-flop sandal and then now to underwear. And
Right.
just because we were reading a translation and someone said, and then they packed their thongs, and they're like, oh. I was like, no, it's a different thing.
So I know about leather thong, like that's still used, but putting ing at the end of a leather thong, like what
It's just how they said it in this book.
thonging is.
Multiple thongs.
Or,
Does it
or
pluralize?
like the,
Or
yeah, I
the-
think it's like a pluralized.
But Zos on its own is just a leather thong. But I think you can call it a thonging. Maybe in the 70s too. This was 1974.
Pickups, not as weird.
Or yeah, the thing that belongs.
Okay, gonna cheese. Oh wait, there's one hand up. What's that, Naning?
Yeah, kind of a weird question, but do we have a word for lobster?
No, we don't. We can try and make one.
No, okay. Okay. Geez, that was it.
Oh yeah, it is.
The shrimp that
What's
crawls on
that?
the ground.
So we talked about today, like going after, going for. So when I'm writing down our homework, we're going after a place name, Ani Tsísk'w with yeah. When we're looking in a book, what in do we use? Would that be like yik or
Because you
kach?
open it and then it's a horizontal surface.
Alright, sheesh.
Ukega.
Sheesh.
Sheesh.
Tschüss.
Sheesh.